Hello, ladies and nerds. Welcome to the FBA, the Film Buffs Anonymous, so no film will be safe. My name is Eddie, and for once, I'm not joined by my partner in crime. Hey, I'm referring to you as my partner now, you son of a bitch. Not as the sidekick, but as a fellow crime fighter, so fuck you.
Dear Champion Vending Company, I put 5 quarters in your machine and proceeded to push B2, which should have given me peanut M&Ms. Regrettably, it did not. I found this upsetting as I was very hungry, and also my wife had died 10 minutes earlier. I'm not saying that was your fault. I just want to be thorough.
Anyway, I am here. Shut up. I am here to review a staggering film that no one saw, which is pretty much which is a great shame. Actually, this film was pretty good. I loved it. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal. It's called Demolition. Came out in 2015 on the indie circuit. It was a hit on the indie, so they gave it a widescreen release in 2016. It should have performed better than what it actually did. Its box office was only 3.8 million. Stars Jake Gyllenhaal and Naomi Watts. She wasn't even in the damn trailers for this film. Also stars Chris Cooper as the father-in-law and Judah Lewis as the actual wife who died. This film, the spoiler warning, I will talk spoilers in this review. This film opens with Jake Gyllenhaal's character Davis and Julia driving down. They get in a car crash. Julia dies. When then the father-in-law, tells him, look, so-and-so, she's dead. We need to talk about this. We need to deal with this. And throughout the entire film, Davis is trying to deal with his wife's death, but he just can't. He's too awkward. He's not sure if he did love her. He feels like he could have been a better husband to her. He feels like he wasn't enough. He's very monotone throughout the film. At the hospital after she dies, he goes to buy a bag of peanut M&Ms, and he ends up, the M&Ms get stuck, so he ends up writing a letter to the vending company. And after enough letters that he writes to them not just about the vending machine, but about his story, about what happened, how he's dealing with it. It's almost like his way of grieving. At one point, he ends up actually getting involved with Karen. She's dating the guy who owns the vending machine company, and she ends up becoming not his lover, but more like his best friend, someone that he leans on to deal with the situation. You also end up meeting her badass, son named Chris. Chris happens to be like a 15-year-old boy who I think is either gay or transgender. He's trying to figure it out himself. At one point during the film, when they go to actually deal with, I believe that's girlfriend Davis was having an affair. Anyway, at one point during the film, they end up going to a hardware store. Chris tells Davis, I think I might be gay. Davis says, well, why do you think that? Chris responds, well, sometimes when I'm in the locker room, I have to tell myself not to look at the other boys when we're all changing. And Davis says, well, that's normal. I mean, you're a kid, you're curious. I mean, that's fine. And then Chris goes from like 0 to 100 and says, sometimes I wish that so-and-so would stick his dick in my mouth. And it's like, yeah, I think you might be gay. And Davis gives one of the funniest forms of advice I've ever heard when it comes to a kid asking if he's gay or not. Because some films have confronted this, and they always take it very seriously, or they make it very awkward. Jake Gyllenhaal's reaction is so relaxed. All he says is, well, looks like you got 2 choices. You can either A, pretend to be straight till you get to college, move to San Francisco and have fun, or you can own that shit now. I mean, it's up to you. Whatever. All right, let's go buy a sledgehammer and destroy our shit. It's a fun film. It's a good film. I love this film. It deals with a very hard subject in a very realistic way. Again, throughout the film, you end up realizing that Davis's wife, Julia, was actually having an affair. At one point, when they're actually destroying his home, he's destroying his home because it's therapeutic to him. To him, in order to fix something, you have to figure out, how it works. In order to fix something that's broken, you need to put it back together. So he's trying to disassemble his marriage and his life with Julia. At one point during the film, he ends up coming across a sonogram, and he finds out that she was pregnant. He finds out, though, that she wasn't pregnant, not during the car crash, but before. So at a function in her honor, he goes to confront her parents, and he basically says, did you guys know that Julia was pregnant? And the wife says, yes, she was pregnant. And Davis says, well, why didn't anyone tell me? And he leaves, in a bit of a, rough, Well, then the mother-in-law proceeds to pull one of the greatest bitch moves I've ever heard of a mother-in-law pulling in film and says, the kid wasn't yours. I wish she had kept him. Julia was having an affair. No, I disagree, because this shows that this relationship was broken, but it was human. both Davis and Julia were both having issues with the marriage, but they never really dealt with it. If anything, this film can proceed as maybe a cautionary tale for couples or to individuals who are thinking about getting out of relationships and dealing with this kind of thing. It's like you talk about the issue or you don't. No, you either talk about the issue, deal with it head on, or you're doomed to a sad life, which I completely agree with. Talk about the issue. It's a great film. Honestly, I love this film. Towards the end, he ends up confronting the man who actually killed Julia. He ends up meeting her. He ends up meeting the guy, and Jake Gyllenhaal just says, "It's okay, I forgive you, it's fine." And then Jake Gyllenhaal goes to his car, and he finally starts crying. He lets it out after about an hour and a half of him just being very pent up, and you just waiting for him to finally just let it go. He finally lets it go. It's such a great film, and the ending is great. You know, he decides, I think I did love Julia. I think I really did, and he ends up putting a carousel on a boardwalk in her name, in her honor. Her legacy is giving thousands of others a great memory to have. Solid film. I recommend it every day of the week, twice on Sundays. Jake Gyllenhaal. To be fair, this is not an Oscar film, but this is a good film in general. It's like The Intern. It's just a nice film to watch. Also, Naomi Watts was in it. She was not publicly put out there as being in this film. She didn't star in it, but she was in this film a lot. Naomi Watts, you matter to me again. Thank you. John Malkovich produced this film. Good for you, John Malkovich. Good film. Overall, I'd give this film a solid 7.5 out of 10. I'd recommend it several times over. This is almost as good as The Nice Guys, as good, but for different reasons. My name is Hey Luna. I'm with the FBA, the Film Bus Anonymous, and I'll be back with you soon.